How's it going, Wolfpack TCG? We are here with an update to the CB deck, Celestial Beings. I have a bad habit of saying Celestial Brotherhood because I run a clan on Warframe called Celestial Brotherhood. Change that. But so I've been trying to get this working. This is until Gd04 comes out. This is where I'm at. I have some texts that I've been kind of sifting through on the side, but we're going to go ahead and break into the deck, and I'm going to go ahead and explain my thoughts. I'm going to explain the tech at the end of what I've been switching between and why I've either removed it or why I've dropped it or why I'm just not running it right now. And then that way you can kind of make your own decisions on what you're going to want to run. So let's go ahead and break into this. We're going to go ahead and start off with always the low drops. So here we are. We're going to go ahead and, as always, 4 of the Gundam O because it is pressure. It is a 2-1 drop. I don't know why you wouldn't run it on a technicality, but we're going to be running. We're sticking with 4 of that for sure. And then if you're not running this, then, you know, to each their own, but I'm running 4 of the low-end 3-2 drop of Gundam Virtue, which is a conditional blocker. Now, the great thing about it being a conditional blocker is, for example, with Shenlong or even Ultron, they do pop blockers of certain levels or deal certain damage. If this is not meeting the requirements for blocker, it dodges those kind of effects. So it's really nice. Now, if it is meeting the effects at the time, I mean, to each their own, but it's also up to the player to recognize and roll those conditions. But it is a 3-2 drop, possible blocker, 3-3, so base cracker. I've switched back to 3 of the 3-2 Gundam Curios. I've really come to accept that this deck is kind of an aggro build. You need to push. You don't need to rely on your late games. You need to have curve available, but you don't want to hold things in your hand. You want to be able to drop, build board, and eventually establish links to be able to go ahead and either punish the player for attacking you or making sure you're taking up their shields and things like that. Now, kind of again going into the low-end drop, we are running 3 of the Gundam Dynamis 3-2 drop, 3-3. Target for lock-on, because then if you're playing against a rush, you can swing into a active 3 or lower, and that becomes a 4-5 for its stats, so that's always nice. Then we're going into the 4-3 drops, which is, again, the LR version of Gundam Dynamis, which is a really nice one. When you do link it with lock-on, becomes a 5-6. Can, for that turn, target a level 4 or lower, and anytime it destroys an enemy unit with battle damage, heals 2. Not at the end phase, it heals 2 after damage calculation. So if you're taking 3, you're realistically only taking 1. So there is that. Now, this is where it gets back into the back and forth of what I've been doing for the tech. I'm running 3 of the 5-3 drop with Breach 3. I'm not going to lie, it's been a really hard debate not wanting to run 4. It is the only unit that has a effect worthy of crashing or being a problem. It's a 5-3, has Breach 3, and if you equip it with lock-on, you can target a level 5 or lower. Meaning you can deal with the RX-78, Grandpa, if you will. You can target into most level 5s, get Breach 3 and either suicide trade by dealing 5, and possibly staying alive, because again, he becomes a 5-6, which is crazy, but you get Breach 3. So I've settled on 3 for now. Again, that might change depending on what comes out with Gd04 and how that kind of really rolls off. So this kind of, you know, starts where the curve is, because we're going into level 5 right now. But we still have a couple more level 4s. I'm running 3 of the Gundam Exia. Just drop it. If you have 2 by turn 4, spin 4, drop 2. You're dealing with 2 4-3s. It's a board presence. It becomes a problem. They have to use their commands or their units to try and take it out. You know, be aggressive. I've dropped the 5-4 Exia down to 3 I really like seeing it. Problem with that is, it's a 5/4, and then you're hoping to see Setsuna. So if you're not dropping it and playing a pilot with it, you're not really benefiting. So, and the effect's only when paired for the mill 2 draw 1, which is really nice. And then at the end phase, if you have 7 or more CB cards in there, you can restand a resource. And that's not a once per turn. So if you have all 3 or 2, you could be restanding 2 of them. But generally speaking, you are going to try and pair it with Setsuna and kind of go from there. I'm only running the 1 GN armor type. Realistically speaking, I'm not trying to get to level 6 or higher, but I do need to have availability for either being offensive and then having a universal link trait, which is really nice. Lock on makes it a 6/6. Setsuna makes it a 6, 7, 8, 5, and then the pilot I'm going to switch to, I've switched to is a +1/+1 still, so that becomes a 6/5 again. But it's a turn 1 link. It's a blocker. Use it or lose it. So I'm only running 2 of the Trans Am. I was playing around with 3, just like I was playing around with 4 of the Exia. Realistically speaking, I don't like relying on certain cards as a clutch. It is a great card when and if. You don't need to try to rely on this to be your winning condition, because realistically, 10 in grave isn't hard to meet, but when you're already 10 deep, do you still have board presence? Do you have that establishment to be able to hit the base and or shield area to proc that effect? Suppression is nice, it's built in, so it's a 6/4 drop, link it, get its health up, try to avoid pain. Getting into the pilots, I'm running the 4 Setsuna. Realistically, the links for Setsuna, we're going to count it, is 1, 2, 3, 4 units. But realistically, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 linkable units for Setsuna, meaning you have that option. It's not mandatory. Again, don't be greedy with your pilots. Be aggressive. Try it. If you have double of the same pilot, throw one away, pair it with something, get the benefits from them. And then let me put these back. And then our star of the show, a lot of people do love him in this series, Lock On Stratos. Again, this is a when paired effect. This is not a when linked effect. So if you wait a turn to pair him to anything, Trans Am, technically it's a link for GN armor type, which we'll get into that. Creating a 5 health for Exia, making him a 5/5. Making this a 5/6. Again, a 5/6. A 5/6. A 4/5. You're not going to get the bonus unless you have another linked pilot in play. Actually, no, correction. You only need a pilot in play and it gets a bonus. So technically, you're making this a 4/5. This is going to be a 5/5 as well. Again, 4/5 or a 3/4. Lock On is so good and has a range of levels to choose from. So try not to be too greedy with them if applicable, and make your choices of when you need them. Obviously, you're going to want to aim for the Gundam Dynamics if applicable. A 5/3 Breacher is nice, or a 4/3 Healer that has 5/6 health. It's phenomenal, but he has every availability to pair and be able to swing at an active unit. Now, I've gone back and forth on this. I'm running 10 pilots, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just my luck. Y'all are more than welcome to leave your comments in the below. I cannot stand Terra. He's supposed to be a throwaway card, but realistically, I am always seeing him more over than any of the 8 pilots I do want to see. The second problem with him is the effect has to be destroyed on your opponent's turn. So, yeah, you can pair it with the blocker and try and block something. Realistically, they're gonna try and avoid that, so that way you don't benefit. Most of the time, again, you can pair it with something and buff it by a 1/1, but it just was not meeting what I needed. Realistically, I could get Alleluia linked. If I get both Alleluias, just for example, if I link Alleluia with the Gundam Curious, I meet his requirement for the level 3. Or if I have another pilot linked. This is what's great about Alleluia, is during your turn, while you have a CB link, any link, not himself, the unit that he's equipped to will not take damage from anything with 3 or less AP. So he has a versatile availability to turn Trans Am into a 7/5, and if you have another linked unit in play, you won't take any damage from anything with 3 or less AP. He links himself with his blocker. So if you're swinging with something and it's got 3 AP, or if you're swinging with something and it's got 3 AP, you're not going to take any damage. So again, the same concept with lock on. Don't be greedy with your pilots. If you can get the combos off, awesome, but when and if. I was kind of thinking about dropping Setsuna to 3 and bumping Alleluia up to 3, so that way lock-on is heavily relied on, and then you have 3 and 3 to kind of play around with to try and meet his effect. If y'all feel that's going to be a great one, let me know. This is how I'm running it right now, and I've really enjoyed it. After that is going to be the commands. I'm running 2 Tactical Visionary, or as I always reference it, Tactical MILF. I was running 4. I'm going to throw some... I bumped it down to 3 and then I bumped it down to 2. But I was originally always running it at 4. This card is legitimately just Schoolgirl and the Smuggler. It is a 1/1 play. It's nice to have, but I feel like a lot of people look at the 1/1 plays and rely on them like crutches. You don't want this turn 1 personally. You want this like turn 4, 5, something. When you're sitting with all these 5/3 cost or 4/3 cost, you want to be able to dig for a pilot when and if. Or at least a base, so that way you can sub out and see if maybe you can pull a pilot. This is a hand corrector, not a godsend, This card can be so much clutter because what you're doing is you're taking 3 possible good draws. You're possibly getting to get the 1 and putting the other 2 to the bottom of your deck. And a lot of times I've seen where that's bit me in the ass personally. So I bumped it down to 2. I've running 3 Fatal Strikes. I'm not gonna lie, 4 Fatal Strikes not bad, especially with Blurple running around. There's plenty of level 3s to choose from if and when. But again, you don't want to by turn 4 be 4 shield deep and screwing yourself over because you're having to wait for somebody who's rushing to be able to at least blow up 2 units when now they have 5, 6 units, possibly, who knows. But I was originally playing around with a 3/2 of Look of Determination, or a 3/1 Look of Determination, or a 4/1 Look of Determination. I think Look of Determination is a very phenomenal card, if and when. Because again, you are required to choose a active enemy unit that is level 2 or lower. If you have 10 cards in trash, which again, CB wants some cards in trash, you can choose a level 4 or lower. Its burst is activating its main effect, but its main effect is a action, meaning you have to enter battle, you have to do it on end phase, you have to respond on a blocker phase. So you have to either create the situation or pray that they leave something active to target. And the biggest problem is, so like if you're playing against white blockers, they don't have a level 2 blocker unit most of the time. It's level 3 or higher. The only thing this counts towards is Zawart, which if they have a Zawart out, they're wanting you to waste it anyway. So kudos if you get to waste it. The other one is Lafrith. It's a 4/2 cost. The other is Rick Diaz, which is a 3/2 cost. So doesn't really proc a high priority to run it. Sure, you can do it for most blur pulls, which unfortunately, again, you have to wait for an action step to be able to activate. So either on their end phase, your end phase, or if they swing with one, that means that they're going to have multiple units. So I had to cut it. I wanted to love it. I just had to cut it. So 3 Fatal Strike is what I wound up settling on because I've decided to, again, be very aggressive. So have a little bit of effects, and then if it bursts, ping them for 1. It is what it is. Bases, I am running 3 of the Polydamas. I love the fact that they have to target your units when you have arrested CB. It is great, but again, it creates that effect where you're kind of ruining your board because you have this. So if they have a level 4 or higher or a token, they can damage this, but if you're building board presence and you're resting your units, you're not necessarily being able to get a proper trade that you want, because then they're going to be forced to target your units. And if you don't have anything with good health, which lock-on is the best one to add for health, it's a little rough. So I'm running the 3 base. I liked it at 4, but again, you can always do it 1 of 2 ways, because I've decided to go with, as a wing player, I love underground base. It's one of the 6 health bases, but you could probably, if you want to keep more possible CB cards for trash or the needed effects, run a 4-1, but I'm okay with running a 3-2. I think it's done pretty good. A 6 health is pretty busted, but the fact of the matter is most CB cards, which I say most, there's only 3 that take the effect. You're going to have the sifting through. You're going to have these 3 cards which require trash. Do not focus on your trash buildup. It's nice to have, and it's nice to pay attention to, because again, you get if he attacks and you have 7 or more CB cards in trash, all your units get a +1 when he attacks. Same with this one. If you have 7 or more CB cards in trash, you can set a resource to active. And then if you have 10 or more CB cards in trash, when you hit the shield area, base shield, you get to go ahead and blow up an enemy with the lowest health. Really great. Don't focus on. At most, focus on the 7 if it wins, so that way you can make sure, again, when you're rushing, everyone's getting a +1 when you're swinging with Setsuna, which, again, is on attack, not link. So compare that perfectly fine. So overall, I've had a lot of fun running CB. I mean, I've had frustrations with it too. I'm not going to lie. The expectations of sitting on board with certain cards has been either feeling like I'm getting all my units destroyed and then I'm having to sit there and just take everything, or just not having anything to really curve with. But shout out to one of the locals here at Legends of Loots, where we're streaming at for this video. There's a young player, his name is Caleb, and he's done a really phenomenal job playing his CB deck, and I kind of got some of my ideas to edit it. He's running his a bit differently. He's running a 2-2 base command, which I found really interesting. So he's running 2 of the Polydamas, and then he's running 2 of the Gundam X base. When it's destroyed, you mill 2. Again, feed your trash, deck thins. He's not running any commands except 2 tactical visionary. Straight units. He's still running, I think, 10 pilots is what I remember seeing. But the fact of the matter is, again, you need to push, and build board presence and pick and choose how you're pushing. And that's why you want so many 3 or lowers. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 level 3 or lower cards that you can go through. And at least one of them gives themselves a bonus for a 4. So these are EX-based crackers. If you meet the requirements, that's an EX-based cracker. that's an EX base cracker or a blocker if you meet the requirements. And this is just board presence. So if you by turn 4 have, well, turn 3, realistically, if you're turn 3 starting off with this, and you go into turn 3, you can already crack base. And then kind of go from there. It's really a hit or miss. You know, turn 4, I think something I would like to see is probably something like that, or that, or that. And then depending on what your additional cards are on, pilots or something like that, pairing them as you needed. But I think Gd04 is hopefully going to drop some really good stuff, or probably frustrate us a little bit more with the fact that we're getting a jack of all trades, master of none situation, which I hope is not the case. So we've still got so many cards to check out, but I always like hearing your guys' feedback. We're also looking to expand on our content. So if you guys have any thoughts of what you'd like to see on the channel, if you have any preferences, ideas, wants, please, put them in the comments below. I'm really wanting to bump up the content outside of just deck profiles and other things of that nature. So that way we can make sure you guys are having fun, just like we are. If you guys like the shorts, let us know. Do you want more pack openings? Do you want more deck profiles of something that you're trying to work out? Do you want more videos with us doing unique things in the tournaments? I think I did like a no mulligan challenge a couple months ago, which was just mortifying. You guys should be able to check that out. It's one of our way earlier videos, but yeah, not mulliganing, and it was a small tournament. It was only like 3 rounds, but it sucked not being able to mulligan. So if you guys want to see things like that, please don't forget to hit the like, the follow, and leave a comment. I love hearing your guys' feedback, your information, your thoughts, maybe how you guys are running the deck, what's working for you, what's you found isn't working for you. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. This is Leo tuning out with Wolfpack TCG. See you guys in the next one.